Hi Ant, we're making cider. So you need a bottle to put it in. I've got a 2 litre glass bottle here. 4 litres is probably easy to make, and you'd want a 5 litre bottle to do that in. I have cloudy apple juice from Coles, just at room temperature. You've got to make sure it's got no preservatives in it. You'll see antioxidant 300 or sometimes preservative 300 on the back. That's fine, it's just citric acid. Ultimately get the least amount of ingredients you possibly can. You'll need some yeast. I'm going to try mine just with regular baking yeast for an experiment, but if you do get like a proper beer yeast, you'll get a much better result from it. It's only a few dollars, and that's called SO4, and that one's Nottingham yeast. They're just pale ale yeasts. You get them any brew shop. The other thing you'll need is an airlock. So this is what lets the carbon dioxide out, but doesn't let any oxygen or anything else get in while it's fermenting. A couple of dollars from a homebrew shop, infinitely reusable. Really simple and basic. Mine's just got a bung on it that fits the bottle. So let's get started. First thing we'll do, pour off some of the apple juice because we need some headspace because it's going to froth up. So I'm going to take out about 200 mils and reserve most of that for just drinking. And I'm going to put about 50 mils. I'm going to add the yeast to that, and that'll just get it started. A little bit of a stir, and then set that to the side while you're doing everything else, and that'll just help give it a bit of a head start. Now, everything that's touching the juice needs to be sanitized. So it's as simple as boiling in some water. I have a sanitizer there because I've got lots of stuff. You don't need to buy it. Like, just boil it. It's nice and simple. The other alternative, you could actually use the bottle that it comes in. Just got to make sure your cork is going to fit there, because that's all been pre-sanitized internally for human consumption. So that's like the simplest way. You'll just add your yeast to that. Now I will add the apple juice. Now you can also add additional sugar if you want. Sort of 50 grams per litre is a safe amount, and that'll just boost up the alcohol percentage a bit. But even without it, you're sort of probably going to get around 4 to 5% alcohol if you're using an ale yeast, as I suggested. And that just all goes in there. Now, one additional step I'm going to do, I just want to measure the specific gravity. Now this will show me what the starting specific gravity is, and then you measure it at the end, and you can use that to calculate the exact alcohol percentage. Completely unnecessary step for you. It's not going to matter, it's going to come out around that 4 to 5% mark. If adding sugar at about 50 grams per litre, it'll probably come around 6 to 8%. Depends on the apple juice in the starting one. To do this, you do need a hydrometer, and again, totally unnecessary, purely for the academic side of knowing. So this is 1.048. Let's jot that down. And I'll put a little label on and I'll record that, so then when I measure at the end, it'll let me calculate the alcohol percentage. And that's going to go aside because I'll give that a clean before I put it away. Now, again, this was sanitized, so I can pour it back in. So that is done. If you're adding sugar, you will need to give it a really good shake up to dissolve the sugar. For me, I'm just going to shake it as well, because that's going to help mix some oxygen into it, which will help the yeast get started. But once you've got it going, you want to leave it alone somewhere cool and dark, like 15 to 20 degrees, in a cupboard somewhere. It's not really going to produce any bad smells. So that's been given a shake. Here's my yeast mix. Sort of starting to bubble a little bit, but nothing serious, like it really doesn't matter. You can just pop it straight in dry if you want. There's that. Just notice that amount of space in the top. You've got to have somewhere for it to froth up a little bit, because this will get a bit frothy. You pour in your yeast. And fill up your airlock. Little marks there to show the maximum fill line. A little bit like that. Push that in. Done. Now, once that gets going, it'll take probably 6 to 24 hours before you start noticing bubbles up in here. That'll mean it's working. Then from that point on, 4 to 7 days, and you'll notice the bubbles will stop. Now midway, you're going to notice this get a real big frothy sort of cake in here. Now that's called the krausen, and that's just all the yeast activity. That will break. So what will happen, that'll float down, and you'll no longer have a lot of active frothing on the top, but you might have a few bubbles up in here still. That's when the fermentation is basically finished. After that point, what you want to do is pull off the liquid from the top, or just let it sit for another week. That's what I'd recommend, and you'll notice that'll get really clear, and all of the sediment will sit and form a cake on the bottom. Then it's just a matter of pouring off the stuff from the top, or using a siphon to get it out, being careful not to disturb that bottom too much. You might lose a little bit at the bottom. Just store it in a bottle. That's cider. It's not going to taste great to start with. The longer you leave it, the better it's going to taste. So probably another 2 weeks in another sealed bottle, which again, I'll just take it out of this, give it a clean, pour it back in and screw that lid back on, and that's that. Store it in the fridge, or again somewhere cool and dark for a couple of weeks. It'll improve the longer you leave it. You can carbonate it by adding additional sugar, about 5 grams per litre, but you can create overpressurization, things can blow up. If you're using a plastic bottle, go for your life the first time, but otherwise just don't bother. You know, it's still going to taste good once it's had a chance to set. And that's cider making. It's that easy. See ya.